Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Sick. Today we're going to be working core and your glute medius, okay? So in these movements, the key point here is that your core is really nice and stable. The one thing you really want to avoid is this large arch that happens in the lower back, okay? So if you're somebody that notices that has that large dip in your back, you want to go ahead and tuck your booty in and make sure your back stays in a nice neutral position, okay? So the goal is to control the core in everything today, okay? So in these movements, even in the plank movements, you want to go ahead and again make sure that that back is not arching, okay? Whenever you arch your back, especially if you're a beginner, sometimes you think it's working, but genuinely you're not working your core as much as you could be if you were to straighten out your back and actually use your core to stabilize yourself, okay? So neutral position, arch position that you want to avoid, okay? If you're somebody that kind of already tucks in, you want to go ahead and try to at least straighten up as much as you can, okay? So if you're somebody that does tuck in a lot, it could be that your hamstrings are tight. So if you feel like you're already standing naturally like this, before you do anything, try to stretch your hamstrings. You can lay on the ground and stretch your hamstrings. You can do that first and then go into these movements, okay? So like I said, we're working core today. It's all about focusing on making sure that your core is really tight, okay? And I hope you enjoy these movements. I'll be going over these shortly. So just a key point here, the one thing I really want you to focus on is making sure that your core is not moving through these movements. So you don't want to arch your back when you kick back. You don't want to move your hips forward whenever you kick forward, and you also want to avoid opening up your hips whenever you're lifting your leg out to the side, okay? So the goal is to make sure that core stays really nice and tight. So some of these exercises will be working that glute medius. Your glute medius is important in balance, so if you want to try balancing on one foot, if you're a wobbly person, just means your glute medius is a little weak, so we'll be targeting that today. All right, these are side plank leg lifts. So this is an advanced version. If you can go ahead and make sure that your elbow and shoulder are in line with each other. You're trying to keep your core really stable here, okay? And you're lifting your leg up and out to the side. You want to avoid opening those hips. And if you want to advance this more, you can put that arm in the sky. If you need to modify this movement, you can lay down on the ground and still, again, attempt to control that core and not have it wobble back and forth as you're lifting your leg. Okay, these are going to be side plank front kick. So here it's really hard to try and stabilize your core, especially because you are kicking that leg forward. So if you need to put that front arm in front to stabilize you just a tad, you can definitely do that. Just make sure your arm that you're balancing on, your elbow and shoulder are in line with each other. If you need to modify this movement, again, you can do this laying down, kicking the leg forward, avoiding wobbling at the waist. Okay, here these are going to be side plank kickbacks. Again, you can use that arm to help kind of stabilize you in the front. Just make sure elbows and shoulder are in line with each other with the arm that you're balancing on. Here you really want to avoid that arching in the back. So again, really stabilizing the core when you kick back. If you need to modify this movement, you can do this laying down. Again, you want to avoid arching in the back. So the goal is to keep that neutral spine. All right, here these are hip taps. So here feet are gonna be together and then you are tapping your hips side to side. So the goal is to pretend there's something under your belly and you're trying to tap over that. Now, if you can't do this and you feel like you're just losing control with the hip taps, you can just do a plank as a modification. Just make sure your hips are in a neutral position. These are plank jacks. So here you want to make sure your elbows and shoulders are in line with each other. That core is in a neutral position, so butt is tucked in, and you're trying to bring out those legs at the same time and bring them in together at the same time. Now, if you can't, you can do one leg at a time. Just again, make sure your spine is in a neutral position. You don't want your butt up or hips sagging. So just those keys to avoid: you want to avoid hunching whenever you kick forward. You want to avoid opening up those hips whenever you lift out to the side. So you should keep your core and leg in a neutral position. Your body should be in a line. And then again, that arching in that back whenever you kick back.